In today's Farm Report, U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack last week announced that 21 states will receive grants through the Biofuel Infrastructure Partnership. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
Secretary Tom Vilsack announced this week that 21 states will receive grants through the Biofuel Infrastructure Partnership to help provide access to more renewable fuels for American drivers.
This will lead to more E15, E85, E30 being sold in 21 states across the United States. This $100 million that's being provided by USDA will be matched dollar for dollar by partners in the 21 states being awarded these resources. So that will create a nearly $200 million investment in pump expansion. We believe, based on preliminary information, that nearly 5,000 new pumping systems will be installed as a result of this resource. Our $100 million investment will, I think, nearly double the number of pumping systems that are currently available throughout the U.S.
Vilsack says there are a number of organizations working in partnership with USDA to increase the number of fueling stations for higher blends of ethanol in a variety of locations.
That's one of the good news stories here, that the 21 states that are applying for these and are receiving these resources are all over the country. They are in the Midwest, but they're also in the Southeast. They're also in the Southwest, and that's I think it's a positive sign. In fact, the state that has potentially the highest numbers of potential expansion opportunities are Texas and Florida.
In making the announcement, Vilsack also challenged conclusions in an oil industry report about the RFS released this week.
Petroleum industry, in a research project that it helped to fund, suggested, I think, in a preposterous way, that fuel prices could potentially go up to $92 a gallon if the RFS were supported fully and completely. It is hard for me to understand the legitimacy of such an outrageous claim, but it does, I think, underscore the importance and significance of the opportunity that the biofuel industry presents to the country, to consumers, to producers, and to job seekers.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
Winter wheat planting gets off to a decent start.
And not unexpectedly, we see very rapid planting progress in the Northwest, where drought still rules despite a period of cooler, wetter weather last week.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey gives the numbers.
For September 6th, only 3% of the national winter wheat acreage has been planted. That is equal to the 5-year average, also equal to last year's 3%.
In the Northwest,
Washington State leads in winter wheat planting, 19% of the intended acreage planted by September 6th.
That's well ahead of the norm for this time of the year.
We also see some pretty good planting progress in Idaho, 8% planted, and even underway in Oregon at 2%.
As for the Plains states,
it's been a little bit drier recently in Colorado, which leads the nation's midsection, the hard red winter wheat belt, with 13% of the wheat planted there. That compares to the 5-year average of 5% and last year's 4%.
Meantime, still quite a few weeks away for any planting in the southern Plains states and southeastern soft red winter wheat belt. For USDA Radio, Susan Carter, Washington, D.C.
A new survey shows that the majority of farmland is owned by non-farmers. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has the implications of this and what it means for U.S. agriculture.
The total view of farmland in the United States shows the vast majority of rented farmland is owned by non-farmers, and about 1/10 of all farmland is expected to change hands in the next 5 years. USDA's 2014 Tenure, Ownership, and Transition of Agricultural Land, or TOTAL survey, was just released.
The last time this survey was conducted was 1999, so we've had 15 years since you've had a major undertaking to study land tenure and ownership issues.
Hubert Hamer with USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service says more than a third of the nation's total farming acres are rented, and 80% of those, or nearly 354 million acres, are owned by non-farmers. In addition, the study found about 1/10 of the 911 million acres that are farmed in the United States are expected to change hands in the near future.
This survey has identified about 91.5 million acres that are expected to transfer ownership in the next 5 years. The primary vehicle for that will be trusts and gifts and selling to relatives along with selling to non-relatives. So you're looking at about 10% of land and farms to transition potentially in the next 5 years.
The Midsummer Snapshot Survey done by the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers and released at the Farm Progress Show last week showed that farmland values declined in Illinois by 2 to 7% last year, according to David Klein of Soy Capital Ag Services.
So I've got good news for those of you that want to buy farmland, because there's some opportunities that may exist that we haven't had since 2011-2012 timeframe. We're seeing some easing in the farmland market and farmland values. Our membership thinks we've got some opportunities here for those of you that want to pick some things off while we still have some low interest rates.
However, Klein says the survey shows they're actually seeing less farms on the market.
And so because there's less farmland for sale, we think that's impacting the ability for farmland values to kind of stay where they're at. We haven't had an oversupply. That's a positive note. The farms that we're seeing for sale right now really are your classic estates that are coming to the market, or trusts that have matured because of a passing away of a final beneficiary.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
After this past week's pretty cool fall-like weather across the central and eastern U.S., all of a sudden, once again,
it's summertime, summertime.
We have very summer-like weather patterns set up right now.
Agriculture Department meteorologist Brad Rippey says that's great for Labor Day end-of-summer fun, even greater for end-of-season crop development and harvesting, and the warmth is going to stick around for a while.
For at least the next couple of weeks, it looks like favorable conditions for the most part for continuing to mature the corn and soybeans in the Midwest, as well as crops elsewhere across the plains, Midwest, South, and East. We will see some rainfall from time to time, but it doesn't look like anything excessive.
And the heat won't be enough to hurt crops at all. Meanwhile, USDA crop evaluators are out there wrapping up their surveys of thousands of fields across the country, gathering, counting, weighing, testing crop samples for USDA's next crop production forecast due out September 11th. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.